to finish this this thing, what are your predictions? Let's say, what do you think is going to happen from now on with the Battle of Solidar, Bakhmut, using the latest developments? So we at first, then New World Econ.
Okay. My opinion is that they will continue to finish out the Blahodatne, and then they will capture Sil, Krasnopolivka, and Krasnohora, Praskovievka. All these peripheral towns and villages around Soledar. They will definitely capture it, finish the pincer, capture Soledar. Then they will focus on Rodozlivka, and then to flank northward to force a withdrawal from Sperne and Verkhnokanyamsky.
So you don't think they'll go for Bakhmut? They'll go north for Siversk.
Oh, so that is the northern part. So Bakhmut is a separate force. So the Bakhmut force, they will continue their pincer.
Okay.
So they'll continue their pincer. They will go for Yakhine, Bakivka from the north, and then from the south they'll go for Ivanivsky, and then they will because there's only two main roads going out towards the west side. So once you cut off the northern road going to Sloviansk, then the Ukrainians will have to make a hard decision. Should we stay to fight or should we go? The same situation given on to Soledar, but it's a smaller situation where because of the pincer, the Ukrainians have to make a decision. Do I stay and fight in Soledar to make this a Stalingrad, or should we just run away? So the chances is they will run away. I don't think they will hold to fight Bakhmut because it's really hard to reinforce Bakhmut, given that the number of vehicles that they have is nothing like what they have half a year ago, or even during September. Because every day we are getting reports of Ukrainian things, heavy equipment or trucks, everything getting destroyed. So their logistic must be very strained right now. So it is not sustainable for them to keep up a defense. So they might have to withdraw to the next line. And the next line, I think Riba said exactly the same thing as I said. It should be the Konstantinivka, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk line. So that would be the new line of defense, because the farmlands in between is very hard to defend. But they will still put entrenchment, they will still defend trenches, everything. So it will still be a long crawl to reach the city proper. Just like from Popasna to Bakhmut is actually not that far. It's like if you drive, you'll be there like in 1 hour or what. But because
less than that.
Yeah, I think 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
The 20 minutes took
20 kilometers.
Half a year. So Popasna was so long ago, right? So you can imagine, even with the fall of Bakhmut. So one of my viewers commented, what happened after Bakhmut fall? I said nothing happens. We just fall back to the new line, and then there will just be a new crawl towards the new city. Yeah, so there's nothing. It's not very exciting, but that's how it's going to be. That's how the Ukrainians decided to fight.
So you think, as a summary before I ask Weeb, so they'll try to push north of Bakhmut, then they'll split and try to encircle Bakhmut from the north and go to Siversk.
In the south, not in the south.
Yeah, in the south.
And Siversk is because Rodolivka, right?
And you think that the Battle of Bakhmut it's not going to be decisive. It's going to just be to a new line. Okay.
Yeah, it's just to be another Soledar, like just a bigger version of Soledar.
Okay. Weeb.
Yeah. Let me see if I can present.
No, cannot.
I cannot.
Can.
All right, here, screen one, share. Move these two. Okay, looking at. Do we see the map?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, I've drawn out this for an analysis video I did, and essentially, I have two possibilities for the next defensive line by the Ukrainians, which will be a temporary one as they retreat to the Sloviansk Konstantinivka line. The first one is the Ukrainian forces who have just been in Soledar. They will not be able to retreat northwest towards the Siversk area, as the Russians are attacking Silch, which will prevent them from doing that. And the Russians also are attacking the southern part. So they will be retreating to this river line here by Vestyukivka. So they will be retreating to this area and Selishneshke. And then there's a river between them. So they will hold this area, which is completely farmlands, So it'll be very difficult for them to hold this area. So it will only be temporary as they organize, and then they'll fall back to this secondary line. And this is all by the canal. We can see the canal here. It connects all the way down south. So they'll hold a position to the west of the canal. And this is all also on a high ground. The heights around the Bakhmut area are at the very most 120 meters, while this whole area is all above 200 meters. So there's one long highland area with a canal, which will be their defensive line as they try to slow down the Russian forces as they pull out all of their forces from Bakhmut. And once they have captured or held or stand in this line as they pull back forces from Siversk and Bakhmut, they will then fall back to Sloviansk to Turetsk. So this whole line here will be their next defensive line. So that's what I believe. I think the Russians will soon capture Bakhmut, and by soon I mean that this whole thing that I've described will be over by the end of February.
Okay.
So that is my thoughts.
And you World Econ.
I would like to share my screen as well. Give my point of view here. So I agree with a lot of what we've said. First, I'll say it. I do believe that the Ukrainians are going to make a serious attempt at a counterattack to push the Russians away from this highway, the Siversk Bakhmut highway, which I also think will fail. But I think that a retreat on this front could result in a lot of casualties. So, and it's pretty uncharacteristic of the Ukrainian side to give up land without a fight. We've seen the entire war; they've tended to hold on to a lot of things a lot longer than they should have. Liman the first time is like a great example that comes to mind for me. But should that attack fail, as you'll see, there's actually only two roads that supply Siversk in the north. This bridge is out here. There might be a pontoon bridge, but the main road is this road from Raya Alexandrivka through Riznikivka to Siversk. And the second road is down here to the south. It goes through Bondarn. Great name for a town. This supply route, soon after Soledar completely falls and the Russians manage to capture Krasnopolivka, will also be untenable. So, in my opinion, Siversk will come under Russian control before Bakhmut will at this point. Even though the Ukrainian side has a much larger perimeter around Siversk, the Russians have had not a lot of success in attacking this direction. If they really even have over the last couple of months, I think that the supply situation for Siversk will get really, really bad from this point, and they'll be forced to withdraw. Now, I think that over the next couple of months, the winter months specifically, if things go well for the Russians, the battle will be in this region that Weeb was talking about. It will. The Ukrainians will, obviously they're not going to give up all of these towns and fall back to Sloviansk, Kramatorsk. They're going to try to make the Russians bleed as much as they can in these fields, in these small farming settlements. And if the momentum stays with the Russians in this area, we may see a battle for Sloviansk, Kramatorsk sometime in May or June. That's what I think is going to happen. So, first off, I think in the next week or so, we're going to get a definitive answer on this region here north of Bakhmut, the crossroads mainly of Soledar. And then in the weeks after that, I think we'll probably get a withdrawal from the Siversk area. And then probably, sometime in February, I think Bakhmut might fall. If Russia carries up their momentum. Now obviously this is a lot of predictions. If the Ukrainians manage to hold on to Bakhmut until the summer, well, that would be absolutely spectacular for them, right? A bigger point that I would like to make to wrap this up too is I think, because I never really got to respond to this when Weeb said it, I think that there's actually a pretty high probability of a Russian incursion somewhere on the border north of Kharkiv to put pressure and create problems for the Ukrainian army. Like if they're already stretching the reserves thin, if they only have so many people on the line and border guards and territorial defense units in the north. Historically speaking, this zone that most of the war has been in, basically encompassing the area from Sloviansk in the north, Donetsk in the south, Pokrovsk in the far west, and Lugansk in the east. This bubble, this is the Donbass industrial zone. It's got six times the population of Stalingrad, and no army in the last 200 years has successfully muscled their way through here. During the Russian Civil War, the Bolsheviks versus the Whites. There was a lot of combat in this area. Each time one side tried to muscle the way through here, that they ended up losing more troops and losing a strategic advantage. Even when it came to the Germans, both on the way passing through here and then on the way back through, the main fights took place to the north of Kharkiv. So this region right here is the key gateway. Once an army broke through here, the Germans on the way through to Stalingrad the first time, and then the Russians on the way back through after, say, like the Battle of Kursk. Once this region had been breached, they were able to get basically behind whatever armies were in this region. They were forced to withdraw. So really what I'm saying, in the past, 150 years, all the armies that have been fighting this area that have lost it were forced to withdraw because of a flanking maneuver. So what the Russians are trying to do here, they're trying to kind of buck history by muscling their way through this, which, Bakhmut is a huge step because it's the last city before you get to the outer ring of this industrial zone, but it's still, unwise historically to try and focus the entire war on this zone here. By doing so, they could, give up some serious combat power and give the advantage to Ukrainians to, attack somewhere else. I think, should an incursion happen to the north, you're basically signing the death warrant of any potential Ukrainian attack towards Melitopol, like what we was saying. They can't attack towards Melitopol if their borders are wide open in the north. So they have to put their reserves up here. And eventually that kind of strain, having to deal with issues in the Donbass and to the north, could be a death blow for the Ukrainians. Also, it could be a death blow for the Russians. We'll see. But that's what I think is going to happen. I think, a slow roll through the fields and a high chance of a Russian incursion somewhere between Chernigov and Sumy.
Then I agree. I do expect a northern invasion by the Russians.
Yeah.
Can you
Legends.
share the screen for me?
Oh, me?
No, you don't get to.
Huh? You want me to share my screen?
Alex?
What?
You have? Oh, do you want our screen? Okay.
You want whose screen? Whose
No,
screen?
I mine. I want to share them up.
Share.
They click
share.
on the present at the bottom.
You have to know the password.
Oh yeah.
You never pressed. You asked me to share the screen.
New England clam chowder.
So, do you see the map?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, I think that.
Oh my God! You use deep state map.
Deep state.
Yeah, because it's to change,
Because it's the
change
most
a bit.
accurate map out there, actually.
But it's the most
they corroborate
conservative.
everything before they map it. So
Yeah, but what I think the Russian plan could be is that, yes, part one of the offensive was this part, but let's say they captured this area. Okay, I think the next hotspot is here actually. Did you notice that the Russians, they first launched a lot of troops in the south here, and then this is what Ukraine did. They sent all the reserves here, okay? And for some time, you see they had a lot of troops there. And all of a sudden, what the Russians did is that they switched flank. They pushed here. And I think this kind of debalanced Ukrainian forces, So the Russians are there. And it's very possible that now what they'll do is simply finish off Klishivka. I think this is one of the key battles the next few days, because if they push through this area, it's literally the end here. They get very close to there. And I say, if the Russians capture Chasiv Yar it's very complicated for Ukraine after this, you know, and especially considering the fact that the Russians are already pushing here, right? So if they control this, let's say, well, let's use the marker. Let's say that the Russians push in this area, okay, and they push here. Sorry, I have to draw.
Capture Ivanivske. Capture Ivanivske.
Then
Yeah.
Ukraine basically has no other choice but to withdraw. Okay. Now the question is
One road there.
if they hold Chasiv long enough, but this is literally the problem of Ukraine right now. So the moment
Yeah.
the Russians get close to Ivanivske, this is where probably the Ukrainians might just pull back. Now, I think this is the only plan for the Russians right now. Instead of big plans, they have to focus on this battle right here. Depends if they take Chasiv, for example, if there's a sudden collapse, we never know. But let's say the battlefield is this one in a couple of weeks or whatever. I think the plan will also be to attack north, like DPA suggested. Seversky is very important to hold too, in my opinion, because if you viewers did not know, and this is going to be the end of my presentation, a lot of Ukrainians attacked towards Crimea from the forest here. Okay, they used the forest here to hide and launch DRGs, so small reconnaissance groups, into Crimea. All right. However, if the Russians attack from this area and this area at the same time, and this area, it basically cancels the sector. And from there, the Russians can even reconquer or recapture Liman and secure the flanks. Remember, this area was never fully secured by the Russians. So I think the move for Russia, if we look at it from this bigger perspective, is a Russian push like this and like this. I think this is Russia's battle plan. Try to get Slavyansk, you know, from two sides. This is what I think is going to happen.
Well, Slavyansk is certainly the war goal, right? I mean, Slavyansk was the birthplace of the separatist movement. So, I mean, from the beginning, like it's the key political objective for the Russians. I think it's pretty clear. So, I agree.
And I think that Chasiv is very important for the Ukrainians to hold because once again, it's on a high point. If they lose the entire high point, then it's low grounds, right? And one thing we forget is that, yes, we have drones and everything, but we also forget that simple soldiers with goggles can also give coordinates. Mm-hmm. It's a bit outdated, but if you're on a hill and you see everything going on right behind, like under your eyes, you can also call artillery strikes. So this is the advantage of having the high ground.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I agree with a lot of what you said, but I have one tiny thing, and that is rather than Slavyansk being the war goal, I believe it's going to be Konstantinivka.
That too. That could be very well be the other goal.
And I think that is because that is the southern flank, and it will allow the Russians to focus their forces by the Donetsk region.
I feel unbalanced now because everybody share map. Only I didn't share map.
All right, give us your map, and we'll finish.
I do want to say with what you were saying, Historylegends. There, if Klishivka falls, then I agree with you that Bakhmut would probably fall before Seversk. But in my opinion, like looking at these maps, some of the most formidable fortifications in the Donbass really are in that area of Klishivka. There's a very large hill that overlooks the town with tiered stacked trench systems that, like you have trench systems that have like almost, an 80-meter advantage over the areas around them. It'll be very, very difficult for the Russians to capture Klishivka. But if they get it done, it's downhill to Ivanivske, and then Bakhmut is cut. Mm-hmm. So,
Klishivka could fall in 2 days. Yeah. We saw that Solidar fell much faster than we anticipated. The moment the Russians capture one of the two fortresses behind the village of Klishivka that we see thanks to the beautiful map of DPA.
This is the one I'm talking about here. This is, when you go 3D on this is pretty formidable.
They're attacking this one, specifically this one. This is what the Russians are attacking. And I think whenever reports say the Russians entered Klishivka, they actually meant they're attacking that fort. They're not actually interested in the village. There's no value in entering the village. You need to conquer that fortress behind. And they're also attacking the one on the lower left.
Do you
This
have
one.
that as under Russian control, Wyatt?
They don't have it yet, but
They
they're
contested.
fighting. There is fighting there. The moment
Based-
the Russians capture one of these two places, Klishivka is done. It's you can't hold it anymore.
Right.
So my turn. So excited. Yes, my turn. I also show my map. Oh, okay. So no, I won't predict too far away because I don't believe in predicting too far away because the Russians never behave in a natural, logical way. But
It's true.
I agree with History Legends. Klishivka is the main one. There will be a push after this. In fact, even while they are fighting this, there will be another push, I believe, towards Ivanivsky. We have reports from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry that there is fighting in the area of Ivanivsky, but it wasn't very clear. No, maybe this is the area of Ivanivsky, maybe this is the area of Ivanivsky, we do not know. So, because I did do a video that there's only 3 towns that will cause the entire collapse of Bakhmut. One is in Ivanivsky, Horodne, and Yahine. That's it. We have these 3 towns. The Russians have these 3 towns. The entire Ukrainians will withdraw from Bakhmut. That's effective because there's no more way out already. This is the only way out through Kromove. So if you don't go out from this way, which is a major road, there's no more major roads here. You're going to cause yourself a lot of problems trying to withdraw from this place because the northern road towards Sloviansk is actually not usable anymore because the Ukrainians actually blew up the overhead bridge here. There's this railway bridge. It was already blown up, so the road is actually blocked. So the Ukrainians blew up themselves. So which makes them the only withdrawal is backwards, which is actually towards Shavisia. But I do not think that the Russians will go for this immediately. They will do the encirclement, force the Bakhmut, capture Bakhmut. I think the next focus is actually right in the south because this area here is ridiculously heavily entrenched. So I will believe that the next move is actually to capture Bilohora and then go and cut this road here, along this road. So maybe behind the entrenchment because there's heavy entrenchment here. So maybe behind just south of Konstantinivka. And then they can bypass Chasivia actually. They can just go for Konstantinivka. And that will also maybe trigger a withdrawal from Chasivia because if this falls, this town will be like totally like very out of place, and it's very hard to reinforce. So, and if you can capture, don't even have to capture the city, just capture this road, the entire New York front will be threatened. They'll be like, oh, should we stay in Torres? Should we not stay in Torres? They'll be very confused. And then if they continue to penetrate past and follow this small road all the way and cut this road also, I can tell you the entire line will collapse over this entire front because there will be no more reinforcement route. Everything else will be so far away through here, and this road is actually unusable because the Russians are around this area, so it's only left with this road, and then if they cut this 2 road, that's it. So this entire force here will withdraw, and I believe that this is actually more important than going anywhere close to Sloviansk because this is a death trap because there's too many forests around the area, and the Ukrainians are very good at fighting forests. There's some forests here, there's some this kind of terrain is very complicated for the Russians to handle. So this is what I think. And for the Sivers, just now I was mentioned Rodolivka. What I think originally was that they can capture this, they can just go through the farmland and threaten the rear. And if they threaten the rear, they don't even have to capture all these villages. They just go northward towards here. All these forces will be like, they cannot hold the front. And then once they start to freak out and start to fall back into Sivers, the Russians will push forward. But now, because this development, they can actually go along the road and go up north. All these villages one by one, it will still achieve more or less the same thing. And they don't even capture Sivers. They can actually go to here. They just go northwest and just bypass the entire Sivers. That will also force a withdrawal from the Ukrainians because this is the only road left. Do you want to go or you want to stay and get encircled? the Ukrainians will have to make another difficult decisions. And this time now the encirclement will be huge because this entire area here from Bilohorivka all the way to Sperne to Sivas, this is a tremendous number of forces. Like there's a huge number of forces around here. And do you want to really withdraw into Liman through their pontoon bridges? It's a very hard decision to make if you are a Ukrainian commander. But I think the Ukrainian commander at Sivas is actually very good because the front line was like it doesn't move. The Ukrainian forces here is damn good. So yeah, I will only go this far. This is anywhere behind this. I cannot, because it really depends on the strategic situation.
True.
Yeah, I feel balanced now.
All right. Should we end all of this with a minute of silence for all the times that Spirne has been captured?
Yeah.
10 times captured, recaptured.
At the very least, Spirne has been captured so many times by both sides.
Yeah.
But this one I can agree.
But maybe it means that it's in a gray zone and that there's one group that goes in, then another group. Maybe it's not actually.
I just pretend it doesn't exist. Honestly, I completely ignore it. I see a report on Spirne and I'm like, scroll.
No, me too. Spirne, I'm like,
I don't know what to believe.
It's not even important. It's
out of this world.
All right, guys, it was fun.
Thank you all for watching and see you all in the next live.
We're not live.